Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're talking about sports. Today we're going to go over the 2022 Dallas Cowboys salary review and off-season moves. Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones. Kellen Moore. What the hell are you guys doing? This team gets to the playoffs. This is something that all Dallas fans know. And Dallas, you know this as well. And I feel bad for you fans because you guys have a solid team on paper. You just got to freaking be able to punch the ticket one of these years. And I'm hoping that they're able to do it for you fans. The issue is that the coaching staff is not, they've honestly consistently been failing you. Or is it that the players may be just slightly overhyped? And we're going to break a lot of that down in this mock offseason here. So let's hop right into it now. Mike, break down the first slide. What do we got here?
All right, so let's look at their cap space. They have negative $21.1 million in cap room. Now, if you look at the players in green, like Tyron Smith, for example, or Amari Cooper, who has recently been rumored to be cut, if you cut Amari Cooper, you would save $16 million towards that negative $21 million. So you'd still be in the negatives, but you'd be getting closer to getting out of that hole. Now, if you were to release a player like Zeke, which I don't think they would in their right mind, but if you release Zeke, you would actually add $11.8 million to the negative. So you would actually lose $11.8 million. So it doesn't make sense to do that move.
No, it does not. Look, ladies and gentlemen, negative $21.1 million. Usually teams that have negative cap space, unless you're in absolute cap hell, which, I mean, you guys aren't. You guys have a good enough roster to say that you're not in cap hell, but some teams are terrible teams and have negative cap space. That's terrible. You guys are in that position where you guys have a roster that is supposed to be winning now because you have no money because you're spending it on all your players, okay? Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs. He's young yet, so wait until you got to pay him. DeMarcus Lawrence, okay? You're paying a lot of guys. And the thing is that your negative cap space means that you can't make any moves in free agency unless you cut players. And you got to cut at least $21 million just to get back to normal. So we're going to go into the next slide, which is going to show you our potential. Our next slide is going to show you the guys that aren't listed here because they're current free agents right now. So Mike, gotta break that down.
Yeah, so some of the notable losses, but before I get into it, I'd like to thank our numbers guy. He figures out the expected contracts and the percentage of snaps played. Noah the Leaf Rake Thompson. All right, so getting into this, we got edge Randy Gregory, who is expected to get a 2-year, $25 million deal, and he played 38.2% of the snaps. Now we got tight end Dalton Schultz, who broke out this year, honestly. He's expected to get a 4-year, $52 million deal, and he played 80.9% of the snaps. We got wide receiver Michael Gallup. His expected contract is a 2-year, $25 million deal, and he played 40.6% of the snaps. We got linebacker Leighton Vander Esch. His expected contract is a 3-year, $25.5 million deal, and he played 58.1% of the snaps. Strong safety J-Ron Curse. His expected contract is a 3-year, $15 million deal, and he played 88.7% of the snaps. Wide receiver Cedric Wilson, his expected contract is a 2-year, $11 million deal, and he played 43% of the snaps. Safety Malik Hooker, expected contract is a 1-year, $2.5 million deal, and he played 39.1% of the snaps. And finally, guard Connor Williams, his expected contract is a 3-year, $20 million deal. As we can see, the Cowboys are losing some notable playmakers.
Yeah. And typically the rule of thumb, and I'm going to say it again for every video, is the guys that play a high percentage of the snaps, that play well with those high percentage of the snaps, are guys that you look to bring back. Now, with negative cap space, you can't bring anybody back unless you franchise tag one of these players. So on the next slide, we're going to show you what we got them doing previously, and then now with the new rumors coming out, what we think that might be happening, now. So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to show you your potential targets. Here's your potential targets. Negative $21.1 million. We got estimated cuts, none. Look, here's why. Okay, we're going to go back to the first slide again to try to explain this to you guys, because a lot of people don't understand this. You look at this list here, and you say this. You're at negative $21.1 million. You can cut Amari Cooper right now, still be at negative $5 million. Then you cut DeMarcus Lawrence, and you're at positive $3 million. Would you want to cut DeMarcus Lawrence and Amari Cooper to be at positive $3 million? No. $3 million, you're not even going to be able to replace the guys that you're losing. So it makes absolutely no sense to cut those two guys because you're not going to be able to sign somebody. Now, here's the thing. There's been a lot of reports lately that they want to bring in Michael Gallup. But here's the other issue. If you bring in Michael Gallup, maybe they do a lot of restructures, which we're not going to predict. But if you cut Cooper, you cut maybe Lawrence, or you do some restructuring, because there's a lot of rumors now that Cooper's going to be the guy that gets cut. On this video, we don't have Cooper being cut. I mean, we don't have him being cut. We have him staying here next year. But let's say you cut Cooper, you save $16 million. Maybe you restructure Lawrence, you restructure a few other guys that we're not going to do for you right now, and you find that money to bring in Michael Gallup. That's great. Now you can still franchise tag somebody. So going back to here, on this video, with you keeping Cooper, not cutting Cooper, we got you guys just franchise tagging Dalton Schultz for $10.8 million, which will put you at negative $31.9 million. With that being stated, everyone else has to walk. Okay. Now let's look at this. Your team needs wide receiver, okay, tight end, interior offensive lineman, defensive tackle, edge, linebacker, cornerback, safety. In this video right now in the first round, we got you guys first we got your franchise tagging Dalton Schultz to fill in that need. Okay, in the first round, we got you guys drafting Daxton Hill as a safety. Second round, we got you guys drafting Darian Beaver as a linebacker. In the third round, we got you guys drafting Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver. And now, with that being stated, so this should be filled in Jalen Tolbert. We're sorry about that. Now, on the next slide, we're going to show you what the 2022-2023 expected roster and depth chart is supposed to look like, and I'll explain myself after that. But Mike, real fast, break this down for us.
So we look at the player listed in green. That's a franchise tag. So we're franchise tagging Dalton Schultz, which I actually think they should do. He was a big part of the offense this year. Now we look at the players in light blue. Jalen Tolbert, drafted him and bringing him in at wide receiver. Darian Beavers, bringing him in to play linebacker, and then Daxton Hill, bringing him in to play safety. Now we look at the guy highlighted in yellow, Asa. I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try it. He's actually was a rookie this year. I think he was taken in like the 5th round. He's a placeholder. Maybe we'll get to see him play, see what he can bring to the table. But usually when we highlight somebody in yellow, we think that they can improve and replace him at that position.
Yeah.
So that's what.
All right. So we'll look at this. This would be actually negative $31.1 million now, because we're adding that $10 million cap hit with Dalton Schultz coming in. Okay. Here's the issue, and this is my point why we literally cannot put Gallup in this video. This is why we cannot have him in this series. We don't restructure on this series, okay? And when you go back and you look here again, you need money to sign somebody. So you're at negative 21.1. We would have to absolutely butcher your team to get positive. What are we figuring for Gallup? Gallup's getting about $12.5 million, we're saying. 2-year, $12.5 million. So we would have to make cuts on the first slide here to get you at $12.5 million positive, which means that we have to save up. Well, let's figure 21 plus 12 is 33.
It's not doing
$0.6 million you have to save just to bring in Gallup. Yeah. And then you could also still bring in, your tight end still. That's not doable in this series. So we're going to keep you with Cooper. We're not going to do all that. Now, I'm sure that Jerry Jones will hire a absolute amazing accountant that will be able to figure all this out and get it done if they really want to move on from Cooper. But in my opinion, with this roster, it is a team that should be able to possibly win games. You're really not losing too much. You're not. You got a decent offensive line. So, in my opinion, a good offensive line still. You got some good weapons. Although you lose Gallup, you bring in Tolbert, and you got Cooper and Lamb. You got a good cornerback still in Trayvon Diggs. You got a decent defensive line. You got linebackers. I feel like you still got to address the linebacker position. Not the linebacker position. Maybe the defensive line position a little bit in corners. But besides that, your team is pretty good, and you should win a lot of games. Mike, what do you think?
Okay, so I'll say I truly think coaching might be holding them back. Now, I know we always question what is holding the Dallas Cowboys back. They have elite playmakers on both sides of the ball. I wasn't a fan of the Mike McCarthy hire from the beginning. I think he was pretty much shot with Green Bay when Green Bay was struggling. And now we're kind of seeing the same thing over here in Dallas, just not being able to get the job done. I think we got to see better play out of Dak Prescott also. But this team has playmakers, elite playmakers on both sides of the ball. You look at a guy like Micah Parsons, the way he just impacts the game, my number 1 linebacker from a year ago. He can change the entire outcome of a football game. He makes big-time plays. Another guy, Trayvon Diggs, another guy that makes big-time plays on the defensive side of the football. And you go look at them on offense. You have Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb. You're loaded on offense. Tony Pollard coming in and taking runs to the house. This team should be performing better than we've seen them perform in the past years. They should be competing for Super Bowls. Instead, they struggle to get out of the first round of the playoffs. So I'm not sure what you have to do to get this team rolling in the right direction. I will say again, they're probably my favorite to win the division, as much as I hate to say that because I'm an Eagles fan. But if you just look at the talent on this team, they're the favorite to win the division. They could probably win 11 or 12 games again this year.
Yeah. And look, here's what I'm going to say. Okay. Dallas. The fans I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the organization. I'm not talking to the players. I'm going to ask you this right now. It's two things. It's either coaching or overpaying players that are not performing. And you got to consider both, because if you go back up to the first slide, and it's a lot of clicking around, I usually don't do this, but look, you're paying Zeke a huge contract. You're paying Dak a huge contract. You're paying Cooper a huge contract. Okay. DeMarcus Lawrence a huge contract. Here's my question to you. Have you been overpaying players that aren't truly as talented as they originally believed? Is Dak Prescott worth the money he's paying? Is he getting paid? Is Ezekiel Elliott worth the money he's being paid? Is Amari Cooper worth the money he's being paid? Or if you say no to those, that means the organization's failing. They're paying guys and are not able to, distribute the money well, and these guys are overhyped. Or is it Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore and all these guys? Are they the ones that are being overhyped and they should be fired? Because there's no reason that a roster like this, when you're dishing out contracts as big as you are with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and Amari Cooper, somebody needs to take the blame. It's either the organization or the coaching staff, and if it's the organization, that means these players truly aren't as good as they are hyped up to be. And they shouldn't be getting the contracts that they are. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's all for the Cowboys video today. Let me know what you think. And until next time, we'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are
Built Better.
See you guys soon. Peace.